What is going on, you two? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined with my co-host, Will Cohen. The trade deadline has come and gone. The Rangers made moves. I'll call them moves, and here we are. Okay, it's the home stretch of the season where every game matters the most, and we're here to talk about our thoughts on the team in general after this deadline. We'll give some quick thoughts on the deadline itself and what is coming forward, and can the Rangers still make a push for the playoffs? So we're going to get right into that. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers, and leave your thoughts on the current state of this team down in the comments section below. I'm curious to hear where we stand as a fan base on our confidence levels in the Rangers at the moment. I have a feeling it's not going to be too good, but we're going to get right on into that. So, Will, how are you doing today? And I guess we'll start off by you sharing your overall thoughts on how the trade deadline went.
Um, I mean, I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. As always. I thought the trade deadline was all right. I mean, they moved Riley Smith back for a third and Brendan Brisson obviously is an AHL player for those of you who know who he is, for those of you who don't. AHL player, former first round pick out of Michigan. Um, Probably kind of like a reclamation project, see what you can get out of him. Um, And then obviously they used that third round pick in the trade for Carson Soucy. But most of their trades obviously came days before, months before the trade deadline. I thought they did decently with getting rid of the guys they needed to get rid of pending UFAs. Brought in Carson Soucy, Calvin DeHaan, Juuso Parssinen. It was kind of underwhelming, but they really weren't going to get much back, and they obviously weren't going to go out and get Mikko Rantanen because they weren't in a position to. So I think they did fine with who they, traded out. For who they brought in, I think it was also okay. I know they locked up Vakanainen and Borgen. Those were obviously two pre-deadline moves, and then Carson Soucy, who has a year left on his deal, but he's been a little underwhelming. But I thought they did all right for the deadline. I gave it a B minus, I think it was. Um, but what were your thoughts about it? I don't know if we really talked about it in the group chat.
Not really. I think my grading is close. I'd probably, you put me on the spot here. Probably give it like a C plus if I have to. Like,
Hmm.
I think it's fine. Nothing that's gonna save the season. Nothing that immediately makes me think that we're heading towards a rebuild. Kind of just a little bit of a retool that we saw going on. But if there's one thing from this deadline that's clear to me, it's that Chris Drury and Peter Laviolette are on opposite wavelengths at the moment. It's like Jury is going out there trading away these older pieces, getting more draft capital, leaving us room to call up younger guys. Like we just trade away Riley Smith for a draft pick. Perfect. Riley Smith was an aging veteran, upcoming free agent, probably wasn't going to stay. Let's leave some room for Brett Berard. All of a sudden, then, Brett Berard gets called up and he isn't playing in favor of Arthur Kaliev. So it's like
Hmm.
Drury, I feel like, is leaning towards the let's get a little bit younger and retool this core to keep us going in the future. But Laviolette's kind of just like, no, I'm just going to keep trying to win now with a bunch of old guys and favor
Hmm.
them when they're not playing well. So that's my biggest takeaway. As far as the actual trades go, I think deadline week overall was pretty underwhelming
I would agree.
outside of the Lindgren trade. I think that was like the biggest
Mm.
thing that happened. But other than that, like all of our biggest trades, like you said, came months before the Miller trade, the Truba trade, the Kako and the Heedle trade. That I was all in the past. It was just deadline week as a whole. It was like again, for lack of better words, underwhelming. I thought in my head we're going to see a pretty big deal go down to possibly help us make that push into the playoffs. But all we got was a bunch of veterans. We have like infinite 30-year-old defensemen now. If Susie goes down, at least we got Dahan. And if Dahan goes down, we like I don't know why we got so many defensemen, but
Mm.
I guess it's all right. The number one thing that upsets me at this current point in time is the fact that through the inner workings of the JT Miller trade, the Pittsburgh Penguins currently hold our first round draft pick that if we miss the playoffs is probably going to be close to top 10, top 15 for sure. So their rebuild's going to go well. They'll probably develop whoever they pick better than we would have. But again, C plus. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Kind of just a bunch of lateral moves, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And it gives Laviolette a lot more veteran players that he can just play over our younger players that we would hopefully want to be developing. But
Mhm.
that's my deadline take. But the deadline has come and gone. It's March 12th. We got what, like 20 games left, less than 20 games, somewhere in that range. And things are not looking too good for the Rangers. After the deadline, as soon as we enter the most crucial portion of the season, what do we decide to do? Go on a 4-game losing streak. So, yeah, sure, 2 of them were overtime losses. We got 2 points out of the possible 8. So it's bad, but not as bad as it could have been. But we're not in a pretty situation at the moment, especially because 2 of those losses came against the Senators and the Columbus Blue Jackets, who do hold the 2 wildcard spots. Looking at the current standings as of right now, the Rangers are only 2 points out of a playoff spot. They have 68 points. Columbus in that second wildcard spot has 70. The problem
Mhm.
here is that Columbus just beat us, so they have that in favor, and they have a game in hand because they've played 1 less game. And now Ottawa's up at 73, going to be a little bit tougher to catch up to them, but
Mhm.
anything's possible, I suppose. I will say, though, moving to this home stretch, I'm not very confident, despite the fact that we're only 2 points out of a spot. And I know that, Money Puck, who has all the stats on the standings and everything, say that the Rangers currently have a 47.7% chance to make it. Those are what the numbers are saying. I think realistically, just based on what my own eyes have witnessed on the screen, it's probably closer to like 30%. Just the way that our top players are not performing. Like, what has Vincent Trocheck done in the last month? I don't know. Lafreniere has not been scoring goals. I get he has a couple of assists, but is not playing well. And the defense still being the defense. Keandre Miller still being the anchor that's dragging us down to the bottom of the ocean at the moment. Um, I don't think it's going to work out. I don't think it's out of reach. If we can somehow, some way turn things around, kick things in the gear and start winning games, sure, it's possible. But I think it's time for us to really lower the expectations of how the season is going to end. Just walk away, not bottom of the league, and I'll be happy. But that's just my take on the future of this season. I'll let you share.
I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I don't think, since the deadline, the defense has the defense has not looked very good. Not has looked not very good. They have been flat out bad. Um, completely outplayed yesterday. Completely outplayed against the Blue Jackets. I mean, I don't. Yeah, they scored 2 shorthanded goals and a power play goal. They did not look good at 5v5, and I think Mika's goal yesterday was a power play goal as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Um, So I mean, they haven't been playing very well at 5v5, and that's been, the case for how, like, the last 4 years is their 5v5 play isn't good enough. Their defense isn't good enough. I just don't think that the playoffs are really. I mean, I guess they are a realm of possibility. It could happen. I just don't see it happening. And honestly, that's fine. Go into this off season and do what you need to do. Maybe retool the forward core. Can't really retool the defensive core because they're all locked up, except for Dahan um, or I guess DeHaan, Miller, and Jones, but most of them are locked up. But I just don't see it happening. I don't see them going on a run.
I don't see him going on a run either. I mean, let's say like somehow we do sneak into the playoffs. Like, where are we going from there? Like, look at what Florida, the team that already destroyed us last year, look how much they improved. Like, we are most certainly not getting past them. The Capitals are on fire. I don't know if there's a single team in the East that I would say I am fully confident that we can beat them in a playoff series at the moment, except maybe like Carolina, just because like we own Carolina
Mhm.
and the Devils because they'll choke. But jokes aside, like I honestly think it's for the best if maybe we do miss the playoffs and get a
Mm.
well, we can't get a top pick because Pittsburgh has it. But
Well, if it's in the top 13, which it's probably not going to be, but which is fine with me. I'd rather lose this year's pick than next year's pick because next year's probably going to look a lot more grimmer.
yeah, that's true. But I don't know if we can keep our first round draft pick, maybe it's for the best that we miss it. But I honestly are the playoffs out of reach? No. You just got to reach really far to grab it. And I don't know how long the Rangers' arms are at the moment. That's a
I
good
would agree with that.
I'm getting metaphorical here. I could write a book. But
Philosopher.
that's what this channel is. It's talk about the Rangers and then we dive into a little bit of philosophy. But that about concludes our post-trade deadline analysis on where this team stands and what the future of the season is probably, unfortunately, going to look like. In our opinions, though. Remember, this is just our opinions. We're not experts. We don't claim to be experts, but we would love to hear your opinions as well. So leave them down in the comment section below. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss notification. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. But the most important thing is that we keep our heads held high as Rangers fans, and we have a phenomenal day. So have a good one, and let's go Rangers.